Imagine starting your life in a small, humble town with nothing but dreams in your pocket. Picture facing hardship after hardship, only to rise, fall, and then rise again, each time a little stronger, but also a little more broken. My name is James, and this is the story of my life. A life filled with love, loss, hope, and the relentless pursuit of a better future. There were moments of pure joy and others of crushing despair. And today, as I look back, I want to share it all. The highs, the lows, and everything in between. Because every life has a story, and mine just might resonate with yours. I wasn't born into wealth or privilege. I grew up in a small town with little to my name, but I had a heart full of dreams. Today, as an old man, when I look back on my life, I see it as a series of chapters. Some filled with joy and success, others with heartbreak and struggle. But each of these chapters shaped who I am today. I was born in a quaint town with rolling hills and a sense of simplicity that could soothe even the most restless of souls. My father was a farmer, and my mother stayed at home taking care of me and my 3 siblings. Life was simple, yet hard. We lived in a small wooden house, our floors creaking with every step, and winters were especially harsh. I still remember the mornings when my father would leave before sunrise, wrapped in layers of old clothing, to tend to the fields. I started helping my father on the farm at a very young age, long before most children would think about work. There was no choice. Our livelihood depended on every hand we could spare. School was a luxury, not an expectation. I would run barefoot to the small schoolhouse, my books tucked under my arm, and then hurry back to help in the fields. Those were tough years, but I remember the sense of togetherness in my family. We didn't have much, but we had each other. As I grew older, I realized that if I wanted to change my fate, I would have to take control of my own destiny. When I turned 18, I knew I had to leave. My parents couldn't afford to send me to college, but I had saved up enough to catch a bus to the city. With only a small bag and a few dollars in my pocket, I left home, promising my mother I would make something of myself. She hugged me tight and whispered, "Be brave, James, and don't forget where you came from." The city was a whirlwind of noise, lights, and endless opportunities, but also overwhelming loneliness. I found a small room to rent and took up odd jobs, washing dishes, delivering newspapers, anything that could keep me afloat. But deep down, I knew I wanted more. I wanted an education. I wanted a career. I wanted a life that would make my parents proud. I would work all day and study by night, saving every penny I could. Sometimes, exhaustion would overcome me, and I would fall asleep with my books open on the tiny desk in my room. But I never gave up. It took me years, but I finally saved enough to enroll in evening classes at a local college. It was at college where I met her, Emily. The moment I saw her, with her bright eyes and a smile that could light up the darkest days, I knew she was different. She was passionate, driven, and so full of life. We were both young, chasing our dreams in a city that barely noticed our existence. We started as friends, studying together in the library and sharing meals from a single plate when money was tight. Our bond grew stronger, and before long, I realized I was in love. But I was scared. What did I have to offer her? A poor boy struggling to make ends meet? But Emily saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. She believed in my dreams, encouraged me to push harder, and became my source of strength. When I finally mustered the courage to tell her how I felt, she smiled and simply said, "I've been waiting for you to say that." We were married 2 years later, in a small ceremony. It was far from extravagant, just a few close friends and family in a small church. But it was perfect. We didn't need fancy decorations or a large guest list. We had each other, and that was enough. Marriage wasn't easy. We were still young and barely making enough to survive. Emily found work as a school teacher, and I continued to juggle between part-time jobs and my studies. There were days when we couldn't afford a proper meal, but she would never complain. Instead, she would hold my hand and say, "We'll get through this, James." Our biggest test came when Emily got pregnant. I was ecstatic, but also terrified. How would we provide for a child? The pregnancy was complicated, and Emily had to quit her job to rest. Medical bills piled up, and the stress nearly broke me. I worked day and night, doing everything from mopping floors to manual labor just to keep us afloat. When our son Alex was born, I felt a mix of joy and guilt. Joy for the new life in my arms, and guilt for not being able to give him more. But Emily's smile, even through her exhaustion, kept me going. The turning point in our lives came unexpectedly. One of my employers, a kind old man who ran a small publishing company, noticed my diligence and determination. He offered me a position as a junior editor. It wasn't a high-paying job, but it was the break I needed. I threw myself into the work, learning everything I could about the business. Slowly, I climbed the ladder. Promotions came, and so did stability. I finally graduated from college and was able to secure a better-paying job. We moved into a small apartment, and for the first time, we didn't have to worry about where the next meal would come from. Our son grew up and life seemed good, but fate wasn't done testing us. Tragedy struck when Emily fell ill. It started as a simple cough, but it quickly escalated. The doctors found a tumor, and our world crumbled. I was devastated. How could this happen to the woman who had been my rock through all the storms? The next few months were a blur of hospital visits, treatments, and sleepless nights. I watched helplessly as Emily grew weaker. I would have traded places with her in an instant, but life isn't fair. I was forced to be strong for Alex, who was now a teenager and didn't know how to cope with losing his mother. Emily passed away on a rainy afternoon. I remember holding her hand as she took her last breath, whispering, "You were my strength, my everything. I'll always love you." Life without Emily felt empty. I poured myself into work, trying to fill the void, but the house felt hollow. Alex and I struggled to connect. He was angry at the world, at me, at the unfairness of it all. I didn't know how to reach him. We drifted apart, two lost souls living under the same roof. One day, he lashed out and said, "Why didn't you save her, Dad? You're supposed to be the strong one." His words broke me. I realized then that I had to stop running away from my pain and be there for my son. We started talking, really talking, about Emily, our feelings, and our dreams. Slowly, the walls between us crumbled. I decided to quit my job and start a small business in Emily's memory. A bookstore, something she had always dreamed of. It was a risk, but I wanted to honor her. The store became a place of healing, for me and for Alex. We named it Emily's Corner, and it quickly became a beloved part of the community. Today, as I sit here in the bookstore, watching customers browse through the shelves, I feel a sense of peace. Alex has grown up now, running the store with me, and we've rebuilt our bond. We still miss Emily every day, but her presence is felt in every corner of this place. Looking back, my life was filled with hardships, but also with love, perseverance, and unexpected blessings. From a poor boy in a small town to a man who found love, success, and heartbreak, I've lived a full life. And though I'm older now, with a lifetime of stories to tell, I know one thing for sure. It's not about the destination, but the journey and the people who walk beside you. Thank you for listening to my story.